I won't mute anybody because there's only a couple of us.
Got it. Okay.
So I shall then say over to you, Dan.
Lovely. Thank you. Right, I should start sharing that. Yep, hopefully that's come through.
I can see it.
Yep, good stuff. Okay, so I don't know how familiar you are with LinkedIn. So we'll start with a couple of basic things and then we're going to ramp it up a bit. I think Linda said I've got about 10 minutes to run through this, but...
yeah, we're really flexible, however long it takes. It's just because quite often like question and answer sessions at the end hold a lot more time and value than
yeah, of course,
the presentation itself sometimes.
I mean, I can talk about this for 10 minutes or 10 days. It's entirely up to you guys. So, but I'm going to go through like a little bit of what LinkedIn is, but from a different angle. Help you understand the mechanics of know, like, and trust, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but in the context of LinkedIn, what not to do. I can show you how the algorithm works as well and how you kind of operate around that. Yeah, and really, and how you get to leads in the end, because that's what people are after. That's what people come to me for, and they say, I want leads, and there's a process to get in there as well. So, so I normally start with what qualifies me to talk about this. So I was fortunate to work for LinkedIn for 5 years. I actually didn't even apply for a job. They kind of found me, which is brilliant. So it proves that LinkedIn works as well. Since then, I founded a company called Next Play. So Next Play is really a LinkedIn alumni. So there's 9 of us now, 9 in this alumni, all former LinkedIn employees. And now we've created a company of sorts, let's say. So everyone's got their own individual company, but we come together as a group, and we sometimes go in and do pitches together as a group, or we pass work around. Anyone that tells you they know everything about LinkedIn is a bit of a fibber. So yeah, I don't know everything. The rest of the guys don't know everything, but across us, because we've got slightly different skill sets, we cover the lot. So if someone asks me a very in-depth question around the recruiter tool, I may not know it, but one of the people in my little group, she worked purely on this for 7 years. She knows it inside out. And flip side to that, she doesn't know the marketing strategies like I know them. So that's where we come in. So we work on everything from personal profile building through to lead generation, employee branding, content marketing, advanced analytics, and everything else, all within that the platform of LinkedIn. So let's go with a couple of quick facts about LinkedIn. So these were the offices that I used to work in. They've actually subsequently moved from here, but that was that top left up there. That's our reception with a phone box. Why not? It's we've seen things by different floors. So on one floor it was themed by transport, which is where you can see these bottom 3 images. People sitting on bikes. Those were actually, they would power up your phone. So you plug your phone in your pedal, and it would. I mean, why? You don't need that, but anyway. There was a bus, there was an underground station, and we had another floor which was around books and authors and things like that. And there was a meeting room which was a wardrobe, and you had to go through the wardrobe and through some coats to get into the meeting room. It was Narnia. Anyway, so there's around 700 million members globally on LinkedIn. In the UK, there's around 27 million, which represents, put that in context, that represents around 80% of the entire UK workforce, which is huge. So when people say to me they don't know whether or not their clients are on LinkedIn, they absolutely are. And not only that, they are visiting on a daily basis. Well, 40% are visiting LinkedIn every single day. I'm going to come on to the mindset and what that means in a moment, because there's a way and an approach and a difference for LinkedIn and every other social media platform that's out there. And we ran the research that looked at that. But okay, so there's 700 million members, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg. So back in 2016, 2017, Microsoft came in. They bought LinkedIn for $26.2 billion. At the time, that seemed like a lot of money, but today it's actually seemed like a bit of a bargain, how they're baking it into the Microsoft ecosystem. So what you're starting to find is that when you send in emails to people through Microsoft products, you will start to see their profiles popping up as you're plugging their name into the address bar. So you'll get to see a bit more about them before even sending an email. Same with calendar invites and how you share files, all of these things. is going to start baking in LinkedIn as well. And so the goal here is to map the entire world's working population, which is 3 billion people. This is part of what we used to call, when I was at LinkedIn, the economic graph. So it maps every worker, all their skills, the companies they've been in, what they want to do, and it helps really move the working population into the best suitable roles. That's part of the goal for LinkedIn. So what do you use LinkedIn for? What should you use LinkedIn for? Should you use it for finding a job? Should you use it for recruiting people? Should you use it for networking? Should you use LinkedIn to find sales leads? Should you use it to learn something or even educate people? Should you use it as your personal professional brand or getting your business news? And should you use it as a digital CV? And should you use it as a dating site? I'm not going to ask you the answers to this because hopefully it's self-evident, and if it's not, it could get embarrassing. But the first thing is, this is not your digital CV. It's so much more than that. This is where you create your personal brand. It's your brand story. You're the hero of that story, and you need to convey things in that way. So it's not a CV. And of course, the other thing is, of course, it's not a dating site. But I'm hearing so many people that they say they're getting approached, and people are making comments on their profile pictures and things like that, and it's not on, and you can report those people. So if you do have stuff that comes along like that, you can report them for inappropriate use of the platform. So that's what it's not for. Now, what I'm ticking over. What I'm going to touch on here is about the mindset. So a few years back, when I was at LinkedIn, we ran a number of studies actually, that looked at different social media platforms. And at the heart of this is what we call personal and professional networks. Professional really is just LinkedIn. Personal is the likes of Facebook, Twitter, to a degree, Instagram. And we framed it this way because we didn't want to, this was not a self-serving piece of research. This was an exploratory piece. We just wanted to find out where our place was in that social ecosystem and where everyone else sits. And if we can pull those apart, then we can actually target accordingly. So what we found here is that actually that these different platforms, they have different needs, they have different interests, and they have different emotions that really fuel them, that drive them forward. And we ran this study because marketers, people that use these, they have their strategies for social networks, and they sometimes forget that professional people, they do have emotions, right? They're people too. And so we actually found that the emotions within that professional space, they're actually found more deeply than in the personal space. They're more profound. And so when people engage with anything you do on these platforms, they're actually given a little more of themselves. So we ran this study with, who do we run this with? TNS, a huge global market research company. And we ran this across 12 different markets, 6,000 social media users. And we looked at this mindset. And so one of the things that we teased out of this, just one thing. So this is just one slide from the entire study, but this is key to how you approach LinkedIn. Within that personal networking space, this is used to socialize, to be entertained, or even kill time. So back in the day when people are waiting for a bus or waiting for a train, they've got time on their hands. They're mindlessly scrolling through their Facebook feed because what else is there to do? So it's a very casual mindset, and they want that entertainment. It's nostalgic, the emotions, it's nostalgic, it's about having fun, and it's a distraction from their day to day. So they're killing time, spending time. Within that LinkedIn world, it's absolutely the polar opposite. So it's about how you maintain your professional identity. It's how you make useful contacts and how you search for opportunities. That doesn't mean searching for a job necessarily. It's how you build your network. It's how you connect with other people. It's how you offer value to someone else. And so the emotions here around achievement, it's around success, and it's about aspiration. So people come into this with a purpose. They come into it to invest their time. So on one hand, you've got spending time. On the other hand, you've got investing time. If you go into LinkedIn with the mindset of how do I help you first, that will stand you in good stead. That's what it's about. The narcissistic side of other platforms, which is all around look at me and look at how wonderful my life is. Check out the new car I've just bought and the holiday I'm going on, and my kids are so well behaved. it's just not realistic. But that's the approach that people take within the context of that personal space. That's not what LinkedIn's about. LinkedIn's about, how do I help you first? It's called give as gain. If you go in with that mindset and you provide value in the terms of the content that you post, that will stand you in good stead. So how does that work in context of know, like, and trust? So with it to be known within LinkedIn, it's about being visible, of course. It's about how you engage, and it's how you post effectively. To get to like, it's about being authentic. You don't have to be vanilla, so you don't have to sit on the fence. You can have an opinion. That's absolutely fine. You know, it's not dry, this platform. You can still have that opinion, but it's not self-serving. So it's not always talking about yourself and what you do. It's broader than that. It's about showing you as a thought leader. Then to get to trust, it's about being credible, and that's how you post consistently over time. So any good marketer, any good branding person will talk to you about a good brand is about consistency over time. That's what it is. That's how you build trust, and that's how you build trusted relationships as well. So I mean, people will, there's a few arguments around this like area. And for me, it's a case of, you may not like me or how I talk, and I talk a lot, but you may trust me to do a good job for you, which means we can still work together. So people don't necessarily buy from people they like, but they certainly won't buy from people they don't like. So there's a slight difference there. But anyway, it's about that trust. How do you convey that trust? That's what it's about. And LinkedIn really is that platform for trust. And this was another study that we ran. What makes LinkedIn different? If you posted the same piece of content on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, twice the number of people will trust that piece of content on the LinkedIn platform than seeing it on the likes of Facebook and Twitter. So this is where, particularly now with fake news, that actually, if you want to convey a sense of trust in the content you're posting, LinkedIn is the place to do it. So that's just a little bit about background to LinkedIn and the basics. I will show you, let's see, hopefully this little video will work, what not to do. Hang on, let me turn that up. What not to do with LinkedIn.
Hi, I'm Michael. Michael began his party career at the age of 4 when he went to Joel McGrath's birthday at South Hurstville McDonald's.
Hey, it's been pretty good weather at the moment. You going to do anything for the rest of the weekend?
I've enjoyed this brief conversation so much, I'd like you to be present at the birth of my child.
Okay.
I'd like to add you to my acquaintance network at mediocre parties. I think I'm really hard to meet people at this party. Are you having the same experience? Like, no one's talking to anyone. It's really strange. Michael specializes in a range of parties, including cocktail parties, masquerade balls, discotheques, dance parties, pool parties.
So, it's been pretty good weather, dude. You going to do anything for the rest of the weekend?
I have a vacant room in my house and I'd like you to move into it. No one's even coming up and talking to me. Well, what's the point in being here? Yeah, no one's talking to me. There's probably no one even there.
Right, so that kind of labors the point slightly, but what this is saying is that you can be a normal person on LinkedIn. So if you were to go to a network meeting, you wouldn't necessarily jump straight in with the offer of what you do, the service you provide. You don't ask for marriage on a first date. So there's a way to approach this, and you can just be normal and regular about it, and you need to think about LinkedIn in a certain way. I work with, I have a client who has properties overseas, and he was saying LinkedIn's not working for him. And I was saying, okay, tell me about your approach. And he's saying, well, I'm managing to connect with people. And I was like, okay, and we talked about target audiences, and he's connecting to some of the right people, right target audience. Okay, what next? Well, then I'm asking them if they're interested in property in Portugal. And I'm saying, but that's crazy. Why? They don't know you. They don't trust you. Why are you jumping straight in with that? You've got to nurture them over time. You've got to build trust over time. That's what it's about. And so there is that approach that you do need to consider. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will show you then. Oh, I was going to gloss over this. This will give you an idea of how the algorithm works. So I created this little video so I just drew this on my iPad. And you've got these, this is what I was saying about, you've got these 4 buckets. You've got the content, you've got the user, you've got the UCF, which is the unified content filtering system, and then you've got real life people. So if you were to create a piece of content and then post it on LinkedIn, initially it will bypass the user and it goes straight into the UCF. From there, it will create what's called a content quality score. Now, if that score is particularly low, then it gets flagged, it gets red flagged, and it goes through to people that will check to see if it's any good or not. The content quality score is based on a number of things, like the words that are being used, the pictures that are in there, how the pixels operate, and the color schemes, all these kind of things. And then people will check this and think, you know what, actually, this is not good for the LinkedIn platform. There may be something which is derogatory to certain people, and therefore it gets flagged again. It'll go through and it'll get taken out of the system, and that person will get flagged as well. Doesn't happen very often within the context of LinkedIn. If it's okay, and most content is 99.99% or whatever it might be, is absolutely fine. So it goes back into the system and it's displayed to your network. Not much of your network, somewhere between 5 and 15%. From there, it will kind of stress test to see whether or not that piece of content's any good for your network. And so this looks at how people engage with it, how they like it, how they comment on it. And to get to a good, let's say, score within this context, you need to have people dwelling on it. So that little clock is called dwell time. If people just scroll through your content and hit the like button and then continue on, that's not going to evangelize it very well within the LinkedIn system. That doesn't really count. So people will take time on it, dwell time. If they take time looking at your piece of content and then they react, that has a much better reaction with the LinkedIn algorithms, and they think, yep, that's a genuine reaction. From there, it may evangelize and send it further, and then it goes back around the system again. So it constantly builds and builds and builds. That's how the algorithm works at a basic level. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, last couple of things I'll just touch on then slightly is about a typical marketing funnel. There's lots of different ways of labeling these areas within this funnel, from being aware, educated, engaged, and then getting to a lead. So how do you get to that lead? How do you filter people through the system so you can actually get to the point where you can start earning money off the back of it? Part of this is how your network supports you and you support your network. Lots of thoughts here around what's called growth hacking hubs. So where you can have your network, for example, you can all support each other and your content. And when you support each other, it goes to a bigger, wider network. And then off the back of that, you can start to really build your own personal network. So this is how you really support each other. How do you get there? You actually have to go to the top, and actually beyond the top, which is called the pre-awareness stage. The pre-awareness stage is around how you build your profile in a certain way, how you build your company page in a certain way, how you build your website in a certain way. Only once you've got those areas correct do you then start to think about connecting and networking with people. The reason is, if you start to try and connect with people before you get those parts sorted out, you're not giving them enough reason to actually connect with you anyway. So it's the equivalent of going to a shop to buy a pair of shoes. That pair of shoes in the shop window are the best shoes you've ever seen, but that shop window's got cracks in the glass, the paint's all peeling off around the frame. But across the road is exactly the same pair of shoes, same price, but it looks pristine on the outside. That's the shop you're going into. So you need to make sure, it's a weird analogy, but you need to make sure that everything is absolutely spot on so that people can trust you as soon as they come across your profile. Part of this is getting your settings correct as well. Then you offer you offer educated content and you provide value. So that 2 and 3 go hand in hand. You can intermix both of those. You're connecting with people as you're providing content. You're providing content as you're connecting with people. Then you engage at their pace. You don't jump the gun. You don't go right to the sales pitch straight from the off. You can engage at their pace. And better still, people come to you and ask you for advice, because people don't typically want to be in sales as such. But it's good when people come to you and say, I saw your page. Could you tell me more? How could you help me? That's a very different prospect. And people are more than willing to then talk about the service they offer at that kind of area. This is where you take it offline. So as a social media person, you know, in the digital age, the best advice I can ever give someone is take it offline. That's where the magic happens. But you still need to get everything else sorted first before you can get to that point. So in summary, it's about getting the mindset correct to start with. Get the mindset correct. This is fundamental to your success on LinkedIn. Being authentic is the second part. Build your presence, be authentic, and you can generate trust. Trust. So LinkedIn is the trusted platform. This is where business happens. Then if you wouldn't do it at a party, just act like a normal person. If you wouldn't do it at a party, don't do it on LinkedIn. Support each other through your network. And then leads. You can get to leads. It can be an amazing lead generating tool, but you do need to get all those other aspects correct before you can get to that part. You get this right, and LinkedIn will enable you to be more productive and successful through that LinkedIn platform. So that's what I wanted to take you through. Hopefully that's beneficial. I know it is longer than the 10 minutes, but hopefully that is helpful.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan.
Any questions on that, on any of that?
I'm intrigued about the dwell time.
Dwell time. So this is something where if you're scrolling through the feed and you're going through it and you're going, right, okay, oh look, there's a post from Anna, better hit like because I know her. Click it and you scroll on again. That just doesn't work for LinkedIn. They know that conveys no real sense of purpose for what you're doing. You've spent no time on it other than you happen to know her and you're trying to support her, which is great. But if you pause on it, if you open the see more button, if you dwell for more than what is it? I think it's more than 5 seconds on a video, then that shows that proves to LinkedIn that actually you're taking time to consider the content, which means how you react holds more weight. It's more important to the LinkedIn system. That's the important part. So is your reaction genuine and valid? That's what dwell time is about. Yeah.
I like that, because that's what a lot of people have a misconception about when it comes to social media, is that, you know, they go on and they're like, oh, I've suddenly got lots of likes. That must mean that they like it. But people just click that randomly for a variety of different reasons why they would like it. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy from you. And it's a big jump from there to that. And the bit in between goes awry somewhere, and they go, oh, I've got all these followers or all these likes on something, but I'm still sitting here skint.
Yeah,
that went wrong.
I tell you what, this is a really, really good point. So when I work with clients on this, we talk about what are your KPIs, your key performance indicators. What's your measure of success? Because if your measure of success is number of views, we can get you there. It's not a problem. We can get you more views than you know what to do with. But this then turns into clickbait. Why do you want to do clickbait? Because that harms your professional brand. So do you want 5,000, 5 million views, whatever it could be, and no clients? Or are you actually comfortable with only 10 likes, but you get 2 clients off the back of it? So where's your success metric? What is it you're trying to achieve here? So that's one of the big things to really work on.
So as an example, so a post on LinkedIn should have like 1 or 2 lines written to make people feel interested to click on the read more.
Yeah,
and then read
interested enough, but not something that's detrimental to your own personal brand. So you will find a lot of people, they will put in, let's say, a very personable, emotional story to generate a reaction from people. Okay, in certain situations it might be all right, but don't necessarily use it as a way to say this is going to actually generate me more views.
So it will be more an educate post.
Yeah,
for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
About authenticity, isn't it?
It's about being authentic. Yeah, you know, don't go down the route where, I mean, I've got a friend who on Facebook, she'll just put a sad face and that's it, and then everyone will jump on there and go, oh, what's the matter, and because they want that reaction. They're trying to stimulate something, and unfortunately there's certain people within the LinkedIn world that are moving towards that route, which is the here's a new word for you, the Facebookification of LinkedIn.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
and that's been one of the things that's worried me is going to happen with LinkedIn, because I quite like it as it is.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's becoming a little more humanized by the way that people are working from home. So you can see my background, you know, you can see my house, my home, and I've been on calls where the kids have walked in and I've gone, oh, right, sorry about that. And they've gone, oh, who is it? And I've introduced them and then I've kicked them out quickly. But so it humanizes things a little bit more in the business world. You've got some of the top CEOs are doing Zoom calls, sitting in their kitchen, and you kind of go, oh, right, you've got the same issues I have. You know, you haven't got a proper chair. What's going on? Or, you know, it could be all sorts of things. So it brings that human element to it.
So, but it's being, you use the word being authentic,
Yeah.
but it's not being authentic, telling their stories about their life. It's more authentic of being a person, a normal person who has a high level hierarchy.
You can tell your story. You can absolutely tell your story if it's got you to where you are and where you want to be, which that's part of being authentic, because maybe something's so I told a story of there's a guy called Billy Schwer. He was a boxer. He was a world champion boxer. And I actually did a podcast with him. Then I didn't go down that route in the end. I moved on from it. I took too long editing them. But he told me a really open story about how his career finished and his new career started. And so I said to him, when did you know you were retiring from boxing? And he said, when I was in an ambulance after a fight. I was on the way to the hospital and I just thought, that's it. My life now has stopped. And from there, he told me about how he got highly depressed. He went bankrupt. He ruined his marriage. He moved back in with his parents at 32. His life just absolutely couldn't have got much worse. He contemplated suicide, but from the lowest point, he started to look at himself and try and figure out, how do I get out of this hole? And so he started learning about mental health, and he started learning about mental wellness and how he can actually then help other people. And so his story was absolutely authentic. He went through that process to come out to actually now be very successful, and he's loving life, absolutely loving life, and he helps people do the same. So that's the context, that is totally authentic.
That kind of reminds me of, it's going to seem unconnected, but that reminded me of a question I asked when I was doing my coaching training, which was, they were talking about NLP and how NLP techniques have had a bit of a bad rap. And I had certainly had a negative experience of somebody trying to use NLP for their own gains to manipulate.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, isn't it? And the point I'm getting to is that the answer I got when I said, well, NLP surely is just, people can use that to manipulate, and why is it okay for me to use this particular, way of coaching? And the answer was, well, it all rather depends on your intent. And I think it's the same for how you come across on social media, is what's your intent? Is it to make yourself feel good, or is it to genuinely help somebody else?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I don't know a great deal about NLP. I mean, I've got books on NLP and all sorts of stuff. I don't know a huge amount other than what I've read, and I've done a couple of courses, but not much. But to me, NLP is just about getting to a better point by modifying your language. And the example I always use is when my kids were toddlers. If I said to them, don't run, I'm just putting that word run into their head, they're off. If I tell them to walk, I get to a better response. And it's for their benefit, for whatever reason. If they're holding a glass, if I say, don't drop that, the thing that goes through their head is about dropping it. And it makes it, they're overconscious, and its chances are they're going to drop it, or there's a higher chance. If I just say, hold it carefully, brilliant, no problem at all. So you're tweaking your language to get to a better response, but in the right context with the right intention.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Because I have on my calendar to change my LinkedIn profile tomorrow.
Yeah.
I have time. But yes, I'm going to focus on my LinkedIn profile. Is something that I want to do. And when you said something interesting, because the first time that I heard about LinkedIn, I asked what was LinkedIn, and people said to me, it's your CV online. so people can find you and know what you do. So my LinkedIn still today looks a little bit like a CV.
Yeah.
Which it was good because I have an extended CV and I would only put some of the things that I've done. And at the end, if you want to learn more, click on the link. And it was LinkedIn, which I had everything. So that was one of my strategies, but I want to change and put my LinkedIn as a support of my website and everything.
Yeah.
What would you suggest about that? Not putting, if I'm not explaining what I've done or put it like a CV, what would you suggest me to do? I don't know. Well, I didn't explain what I was doing. I'm a coach, like Claire said, but I'm more into mental health in a job or in personal life. So I do both, and I'm specialized in neuroscience of emotions. So everything that it's connected with emotions. So I do that kind of coaching and therapy.
Yeah, no, I'm
interrupting.
And we've connected already this morning.
Yes, so you were really quick.
Yeah, I don't know your surname yet. We've got to do that.
Yeah, Garancho.
So change your on here the 3 dots. You can just click that and go rename, and then you can see something.
Oh, but I can see here Ana Garancho. Yes, it's Ana Garancho. Then do you have another name?
No. But you've got Therapists Network that's come up on yours, so I couldn't see your.
Oh, really? Because I see Ana Garancho.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Claire. I thought it was me.
Sorry.
Yeah. We keep it Therapists Network because this account is shared. So leaders run their meetings from it. So if we had my name, it'd be really confusing. I do have my own one with my name in as well. So it's Hurst.
But yeah, on the profile side of things, so there is a way to do this, there's an approach to doing this, and we would test and measure what works. When I was at LinkedIn, we can understand how people are found through the system, and there is a method to it, but it's difficult for some people. So the visualization of the visual elements, which is your headshot and the banner in the background, they need to work for you in a certain way. The visual area, that background needs to convey your story, your brand story visually. What is it you're trying to do? And even a call to action. It's not clickable, but there can be a call to action within it. How do you get that across? People they're still visual creatures, right? That's language is a relatively new thing in the context of how long humans have been around. So people are still very much visual thinkers, even though they don't think that's necessarily the case. People will take things on board quicker with visuals. Then you start to go through, how do you operate in terms of the keywords that you plug in? How do you convey a sense of authority, seniority, credibility, and importantly, the benefit of what you do? So how do people get to buy into that? And then how do you convey your story in terms of why you do what you do? People buy into why you do it, not what you do it. Are you aware of Simon Sinek at all? Have you heard of Simon Sinek? Yeah. So
his book Why.
Yeah.
Start with why or something like that.
Absolutely. Start with why. And so do you have Apple products?
No.
No Apple product.
I do. Yeah.
So he talks about, one of the examples he's given is comparing Apple with, let's say, HP. So HP will say, we make brilliant computers, and that's how they start. And you go, okay, yeah, fair enough.
All right. They are.
And they do. Apple start with, we believe in disrupting the norm. And I kind of go, yeah, I do. I like that. I want to disrupt the norm. Tell me more. And then they end up with, we happen to make brilliant computers. And you go, yeah, well, I've bought into it. You know, that's it. That's me all over. So you kind of buy into that as a not a theory, but a way of thinking. So this is where you convey your story. You start with why you do what you do. If someone looks at that and agrees with you, they're more likely to convert into a client. So you go through those areas. You change your settings to work for you and not LinkedIn. this is a tough one. It's about going through them quite diligently, but LinkedIn is about, you've got to think, how does LinkedIn make money? LinkedIn makes money by advertising for the most part, not going into the subscription model necessarily. So where you've got Sales Navigator, premium products, recruiter tools, those kind of things. In the regular context, it makes money by selling advertising space. So to get to advertising space, they want people to stay on the site for longer and go through multiple pages. The more pages you go through, the more they can sell against you as an aggregate. You start to appreciate that you can change your settings to work for you more than it does for them. So that's one of the other key areas. And then it's about how you start building out and conveying trust. How do you get more recommendations? How do you build that section out? So what you want is someone who comes in to see your profile so they can discover you, they can find you. Are they likely to then say, yep, and I'm going to pick the phone up to you, I'm going to jot you an email, whatever it might be. That's what you want to get to, not go off to someone else.
So in a way, it's like using LinkedIn like a website page, like my own website, in a way, talking about me, what I do, and things like that. So
it's got to be quite a seamless transition from your personal page through to your company page. You should still have a company page on LinkedIn. You'll never get as much traction on a company page, but it needs to have a presence. If you go from personal page to company page to website, that's the flow. And you can monitor and measure the people who come out of LinkedIn and go to your company page, to your website. So around 40% of business traffic to a website will come from LinkedIn, not Google.
Yeah.
For a lot
nowadays, people use a lot social media. Sorry, Claire.
That's okay. Yeah, for a lot less effort as well. I've worked with a lot of people with SEO and SEM for their websites, and it's all about, their content, but the market on Google is huge, and people are like, oh, that's great, there's so many people that can see my website, but the 200 metrics that you've got to satisfy to get there is a full-time job in itself. And so it's, for me, it's all about writing something that's significantly useful to the person who you want to have as a client, and then sharing it somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. So but yeah, that's part of what it is. And so I work with people on a one-to-one level. I've started writing some courses as well, so I can do this a bit more at scale. More often than not, I have clients come to me and say, Dan, I need to get leads. And we go, great, okay, that's the end goal, that's what you're after. Let's look at how you use the system. And then we have to work back and back and back and say, step one, we've got to optimize your profile, because you can't get to a lead without optimizing your profile. It's just not going to work. So we do that as a one-off piece of work. We get that sorted out. Then you start thinking, how do you grow your network? Because what you want is, it's not all about quantity, but you want a quantity of quality in your network, because you've got a much better chance of converting people if you've got a mass. And you can go through a system, a process of just saying, I'm going to connect to 10 people each day, and you can do it like that. It's so very quick, but you have a diligent, and you put that framework in place, and then you start thinking about a content calendar, about having a presence over time. And people will ask me, how often should they post? When should they post? In fact, I had a LinkedIn trainer asked to have a call with me to ask me those kind of questions, which I kind of thought, that's a bit odd. But I said to me, right, how often should you post? And I pass it back to them and say, will you tell me, how often do you tell people to post? And she said, I'm telling people 3 times a day, and once should be a video. I was like, well, based on what? And she said, well, I don't know really. Well, that's terrible advice then. That's really bad advice. So it's really about having consistency and then learning what works for you over a period of time. There's no silver bullet to this. Anyone that tells you otherwise, again, is not correct. I read something the other day that the best time to post was on a Wednesday between 10 and 12, because that's where most of the traffic is globally. That doesn't help, because most of the users are in the States or India or that kind of area, which means it's nothing to do with the UK, and it's certainly nothing to do necessarily with your own personal network. So that doesn't work either. So it's about testing and modifying over a period of time by sticking to a content calendar, and learning what works for you.
Wow, yeah, it's like 3 times a day and one of them a video. That's quite a commitment.
And a ridiculous one.
I'd have to turn down clients so I could fit that in.
Yeah. See, and there's other ways where you can, you could spend a day. I spent, well, half a day just putting some content together. And then I used another system, Hootsuite, to schedule them, that I have definitely one piece of content that comes out every week from now to the end of the year. So if I have a really busy week working with people and so forth, and I just don't think about it, I still know there's something coming out. So it's not a problem. Then everything else is a bonus to it.
Yeah. Dan, I've got a question for you. Can you give me the biggest surprise that your clients have from working with you?
The biggest surprise?
Yeah, so what they didn't expect.
What they didn't expect. So a lot of people really just don't appreciate what LinkedIn can be used for. Again, they not dissimilar to what you're saying, Anna, but they use it as a place to house their CV. And that's often a bit of a wake-up call to go, right, okay, this is fundamental to my business. This is how I need to consider it to operate moving forwards. So you can utilize your past to generate your future is another way to think about it. I think that's often one of the big wake-up calls for people. They just don't know about it. In the same way that, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't know how to use Facebook for business because I don't. And so, but I have people come to me and they ask me about this stuff, and as soon as I start talking about it in that context, then there's a light bulb moment.
Well, I'm not only work for myself, but I also work for a charity.
Right.
And I've been posting on LinkedIn to try to understand how LinkedIn works.
Yeah.
And for the volunteer center. And what I'm doing is I'm posting their offers. Okay, they look for people to volunteer for other charities. So I've been putting offers. Sometimes people put a like, but I recognize that when I share a link for a blog, I have lots of traffic for the website, because it gives it's different. Yeah. It's a blog. It's not a picture.
Yeah.
Okay, saying apply here if you want to volunteer for this position, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah.
However, how can I know how efficient that is? And people really apply for that position from LinkedIn? How is there any analytics that I can see? Because not only I'm working with LinkedIn for them, but I want to learn with that experience for myself too.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It is a tough one. It's how you monitor this over time. So there's correlation isn't necessarily causation. Just because you're seeing a spike in traffic, it's not a guarantee that that's where it's come from. But if you do this enough times and see the same spike, then you can start to make that correlation. If it happens once, there could be something else that's driving people. We don't know. But I think it's just having that structure in place to look at it over a period of time, say, this is working for me, outside of getting involved with things like Sales Navigator, because you could pay another £50-60 a month for it, which would help give you some of these analytics. But really, probably at this stage in your LinkedIn journey, you don't need it. You can still use it in an organic way, save your money, but just monitor those things. So you can add a LinkedIn pixel to your website, which can look at traffic coming through. So you can do that. There's no problem. And then also just look at your Google Analytics. You can see, are they coming out of LinkedIn?
Okay.
Yeah, get referrals.
Yeah.
It was difficult for me to start using LinkedIn for the charity because of that mindset that LinkedIn is a CV. It's an online CV.
Yeah.
So it's like, how am I going to do this? Am I using the platform for in the right way? Because if it's a CV. Why am I sharing blogs, posts? Why am I sharing offers for volunteering? Shouldn't be that on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. So it's difficult to change the mindset about LinkedIn.
It is, and LinkedIn's not for everyone. And I talk to clients about this as well. I have had a lady who called me up and she renovated furniture. And I said, okay, so if you're renovating furniture with a view to, let's say, sell it into a pub chain or a hotel chain or something on that grand scale, maybe it's for, I don't know, office receptions or something along those lines, something that's big and you need to target a certain audience to get in front of them, then LinkedIn is absolutely your place. If you're doing this on a one-to-one level, which is to a consumer, then you're probably better off using a Facebook or an Instagram or something along those lines.
Yes.
It's not going to work for you in this area. So there's that to consider. It's not for everyone. Hang on, what was the question again?
Changing am I using the platform in the right way? So
yes. So that's what I was going to say, was about I also work with a lot of people that are not comfortable talking about themselves. They feel it's a bit egotistical. But my take on this is, if you believe in what you do, if you really believe in the benefit of the service you offer or the product that you've got, then you earn the right to talk about this, because what you're doing is building awareness for the benefit of other people to then use your service or your product.
Okay.
That's what it's about. So you've earned the right to talk about it. It's just doing it in the right setting and in the right way. And that is often the difficult part to change your way of thinking.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got 2 points come from that for me. One is that I find it better to see LinkedIn as a networking group as opposed to a CV. So, you know, again, going back to that video, I liked that video if you wouldn't do it at a party, but I was thinking more if you wouldn't do it at a networking event.
Yes,
so,
it's the same thing.
If you was going to meet other people in networking, then it would be, you know, that's the sort of things to share, things that would be interesting or useful to them. But one of the, I've forgotten what the other thread was that I was going to go down just then, but no, it's gone. It'll come back.
Yes, it's my way of thinking is, how do I respect LinkedIn? Because like you said, some people abuse in telling their story, personal stories and things like that. I think LinkedIn is more a professional platform than a personal platform. Although, for example, my profile is personal, but I use it more professionally. So it's like, how do I respect LinkedIn? You know?
Yeah.
And I respect what I do too. How I respect myself, and I don't do the same as I do, for example, in LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, LinkedIn haven't got everything right, not by a long stretch. You know, there's you can now have multiple different emojis to react to a piece of content. I don't think it's necessary really in a business context. But the whole point to this is that they would test and check this. Does it create more engagement? If it creates more engagement, then people are going to be on the site more, because people are going to get more notifications, and the more notifications you get, the more likely you are to go back into the system, and the more times you go back into the system, the more they can sell advertising space. That's just how it works. So like they will ask, what's your when's your birthday, so they can notify your network. The point of that is not to help you feel good about it on your birthday. The point is that your network will be told it's your birthday today, and they go, oh, I would jump back into the system and say happy birthday. More advertising space.
Okay.
Which is basically how all social media manages to run their big servers and stuff, isn't it? It's going to be paid for somehow.
That's what it's about. I mean, it starts off with the will to do good, but it can often morph into just a money making. But it's still good. It still works for people. It still helps them be more productive and successful. It helps them connect to opportunity. That's how we used to phrase it.
And I think that's when you were saying about the people who are not happy talking about themselves. I think, well, for a start, that's quite British. same as a lot of other cultures. But I quite often help clients who say, I just don't want to sound like a snake oil salesman. And it's like, well, are you selling snake oil? Like, so what you offer, is it actually a bit shit but wrapped up with a pretty bow? Is that what you're selling? And they're like, no, I really want to help people. I really want to make their lives better. I really want to do this. And they get really passionate, and I see their body language completely change. And I go, so why are you selling snake oil? Why? You're doing them a disservice by not telling them how you can help them.
That's exactly what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Not saying it is the bad thing.
Yeah, completely.
That comes from the way of thinking and how they behave, because marketing is not for everyone. I never took a course about marketing, and I'm learning for myself. And like Claire said, culturally, it's difficult. It's difficult to expose yourself when you were a child. Parents will say that, shh, be quiet, don't say anything. If you say anything, and big eyes, and we grow up not saying anything about ourselves, and because it's not beautiful, it's not cool to talk about yourself.
Well, it's safe as well, isn't it? I was watching a podcast on YouTube this morning from a coach who I like to follow, and he was saying that the reason why we do this is because it's built into our ancestry. It's been given down to us over like thousands and thousands of years. Whereas if you're a tribal species and you live in a tribe, and you go against the grain, or you stand up above them and say, I know better than you might die. So the tribe would leave you and you wouldn't be able to feed yourself, or you would have a fight with somebody and they might kill you. It was literally, from something deep within us in the past where it would actually be a physical danger to speak up. And we've carried a bit of that with us, and it's not really relevant anymore in this society that we live in now. But we still have a bit of that sort of ancestral urge to keep quiet, go in with the crowd, agree with people, and be safe.
Safety in numbers. Absolutely. Yeah. So you do need to have a little bit of bravery there, but the things that hold you back, it can be distraction, it could be self-doubt. What's the third one? Doubt, distraction. It's another D. I can't think of it. It'll come back to me. I never remember the third D. But
not that decision paralysis, is it?
It's along those lines. Doubt, disappointment. That's it. But the doubt side of things is essentially a bit of a fear. It's a fear of failure, and so you doubt yourself because, well, do I put myself out there, and then it doesn't work, and then maybe I can't do it, and so you've got to get past that. You really got to push through it, because there's a guy, Wayne Gretzky. He was an ice hockey player, one of the best ice hockey players ever. Scored the most goals, if they're called goals, I'm not sure, but he said he missed 100% of the chances he did not take, which kind of just says you've got to take that chance, and you've got to get over that imposter syndrome. It's another big thing. How do you get past imposter syndrome, that you don't deserve to be there? That fits into the doubt as well.
Yeah, I deal mainly with sole traders, and that imposter syndrome is huge. It's a huge problem.
Yeah. It's funny because when I talk to people about LinkedIn, and more often than not, it kind of morphs into a little bit of business coaching. It kind of just goes down that route a little bit. Not intentionally by any stretch, but there's often a little area there that's, how do they not just convey the best of themselves digitally, but how do they actually mentally get things right to make use of it?
Yeah.
That goes for the perfectionism. People think that to be a professional in something, they need to know everything. Like you said in the beginning, you don't know everything about LinkedIn, but you are here talking about LinkedIn, and you are working for years in LinkedIn. So it's the perfectionism. You think that you need to know everything. So it comes the fear. Am I going to be able to do this? And the fear comes for doing something new, or expecting the unexpected. Something will go wrong, because it's your brain protecting you. from different things. But if you don't fail, you don't learn from the experience, and life will be boring because everything will be perfect. You will have the perfect wife, perfect kids, perfect house, perfect job, and how boring.
And you can write about that on Facebook.
Yes. Life will be boring.
Lots of likes.
You only choose good things.
Yeah.
But bad things have to happen, so you can learn from them and say, next time I'm not going to do this, or next time I'm going to do differently and try another strategy. So, and people are all different and unique. So as a coach, you always have to expect different things.
Yeah.
And you have to think. Sometimes you were saying, oh, that's a tough one. So you were not expecting that, but you were able to respond the best way you could. And that's what we need. It's not being perfect in everything. So that's why people have that imposter syndrome. Oh, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
You know, but even the creators of, I don't know, for example, NLP methodology, they might not know everything.
Mm. And if things had to be perfect, there would never be the internet. There'd never be anything online, because it's always that first version. What's the minimal viable product that you can get out there as a starting point?
Yeah.
One of the things that I've done to try and overcome it myself, because I had it terrible, the imposter syndrome, because people kept referring to me as a tech expert. They kept saying, oh, she knows all about SEO, she knows all about Google, she knows all about websites, go to her. And I'd be like, oh, they might ask me something I don't know the answer to. What the hell am I going to do? And I'd get quite scared and procrastinate a lot, because that comes from a place of fear and worry and doubt. And so do anything else because it feels more comfortable, isn't it? And one of the ways that I got over that was, well, partly was by looking at my whole life experience and bringing that to the table as well. Not just whether I'm academically trained or got any qualifications, but everything I've ever done from a child that's brought me to this bit where I am now. But also it's kind of like, well, could I just tell them that I don't know everything?
Yeah.
Could I set the stage and say, I may make a mistake, but if I have something you ask me and I don't know, I might know someone who knows, so I'll ask them.
I'll find out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then suddenly
it's just relaxed.
Sorry?
So what is your background?
So I started off in retail management. So I've done managing stores and things like that. I used to work in the training department at the Early Learning Centre as well. Used to train people and put together training courses. But I then started I've been doing photography as a hobby and professionally on and off since I was about 14. So I had a little photography studio for a while, and that was okay, but it became a bit conveyor belt, and I didn't want my passion to be like that. It felt too much like a job, and photography for me was always more fun than that. So it kind of went against what I wanted to do with it. But while I was doing that, I was building websites on WordPress for people, and I was interested in analytics and how social media works. When that started off, I mean, my first friends on Facebook, no one else I knew was on it. So I just found people with the same name as me and said hi, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was just crazy, but I was always interested in how it worked.
Yeah.
And I've always been interested in everything and how it works. So with every job I've done in the employed world, it's always been, I've got to the point where I can't know enough. I can't know anymore. I've learned everything about this job, and I've done some other jobs on the side, and now I'm bored and I move on. And so one of the things that I thoroughly enjoy now, because it brings in every aspect of that, is coaching people with, similar sorts of things going on for them. I meet a lot of what I would call polymaths, not necessarily geniuses like Leonardo da Vinci, but certainly people who've got an eclectic mix of learning and wanting to know and a passion for knowledge, but aren't able to necessarily say, this is the job I want to do for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
That would make me feel like, God, I'd have to do this forever.
My nephew, who he's going to be 18 this week, he thinks he's decided on a career path. He said he doesn't want to go to university. He said he doesn't want to get saddled with a debt when he doesn't really know what it is he wants to do with his life. And I was like, okay. And he said, how do you decide what you want to do? And I said, I'm in my 40s. I haven't decided. No, this is
Yes.
what I'm doing now, but who knows? Give it a couple of years, it might change.
Yes.
So
Changes.
there's, the way I look at it is there's two types of people in the world. There's the generalists and the specialists. And I absolutely would not want a polymath or a generalist doing brain surgery on me or flying an aeroplane I'm in.
Is that because
or
you
building
might
the
start with doing the brain surgery and go,
Yeah.
well, you know what? I might just do something over here instead.
But the brain surgeon can't work without the nurses and the assistants who are the generalists.
Yeah.
And the anaesthetists can't work without, you know, the people that have trained them. And so there's a synthesis there between, we've come out of kind of this land of everything has to be a specialism. You're asked as a child, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be when you grow up? And it's one thing. You're only allowed to answer one thing. You're not allowed to do more than one. And there's, you know, a large percentage of the population who are just not like that. They are not going to specialize. And actually, those are the people that bring this idea and that idea and put it together with something that no one's ever heard of before.
Yeah.
I would like to be a generalist. I can't. Too many ideas.
Yeah. My daughter's actually, she's taken her 11 plus this morning. And so people have always say to her, so what is it you want to do when you get older? And she's gone from everything from, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be a scientist, to actually I want to work behind a bar. And I'm like, I love that, because you see something, you go, I want to have that experience. So yeah, go for it. Whatever it is, go for it.
Yeah. Well, you call it polymath, I call it multi-passionate.
Yeah.
Because I have multi-passions.
Yeah.
My mind is always, but I specialize now in something just because I wanted to expand my knowledge in psychology, and emotions is something that I really wanted to do, but I can't see myself in the future doing only this. I see myself so many other things.
So I think the mistake that people make with that is that I'm going to have to drop this thing that I like in order to do something else later on, when actually you could keep that thing that you like in some form and attach to it other things that you enjoy and make it a bigger thing that you like. And that's where I think people make the mistake with polymaths, is that they think they're unfocused, they can't be single-minded, they don't have a set career path, and they don't. You know, mine's really eclectic, but everything that I've learned through that has been brought to this table now and is what I can offer today, and I will continue to grow that thing that I will attach new things to.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I wrote a blog about this is about diversity. Now, not in the traditional sense of diversity and inclusion, where you can talk about gender, you can talk about ethnicity and all these other areas. I spoke about it in terms of thinking. That's all. Life experience. Wherever you've come from, whatever you've done, what's that life experience that you can draw upon? And I think that will benefit you going in the future. If you've got that diversity of thinking and experience, that can only be beneficial. Yeah.
And I think people dwell on the qualification side of things and the academic side of things, but you know, if you've ever been in a job interview, you'll know that the first thing they ask you about is your experience, not what you did in college.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
My daughter is in university studying human biology, but she says it's not going to be my career. It will always be a plan B, because what I want is art. And she's drawing and selling. Look, she's 19, she's selling art. And she's studying human biology because she loves facts about anatomy and everything that it's human biology. But she will be like me. She will never be satisfied with one career or something.
Yeah. What kind of art does she make?
She likes everything like chibis and Japanese art, anime and things like that. She's really good. She's really good on that. Well, I have a class to run. In 1 minute. I have to go. It was a pleasure to meet you, Dan, and see you there again, and hope to see you again. Thank you for
Sounds good.
Your input.
No problem.
lack of words.
Yeah, that's cool.
Already.
But nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet
And
you.
Claire too. Make sure we'll connect after this call as well, of course, on LinkedIn.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Claire. Bye.